Oh, please, you do the intro.
All right. Well, welcome to the final episode.
No, it's
of
not.
Oh,
Hi, I'm Marc, a professional artist, an art teacher. And in this week's episode of my weekly series for artists I call YouTube Art School, I'll give you my 4 top tips on how to draw significantly faster. 4 shortcuts that most artists don't know or don't use enough. Start taking these shortcuts and you'll not only get at least twice as fast, guaranteed, but the quality of your art won't even suffer. Double win. Uh-oh, quickly, let's get this class started. Alright, class is in session. Pay attention. Drawing faster is a common concern we all have as artists at some point. I remember I sure did. My students ask about speed too, and I see this as a recurring theme in the comments here on YouTube just as much. What can we do to actually draw faster? To get from a blank canvas to a finished drawing in way less time than it takes you now? Are there even ways to go faster other than just getting better overall though? Yes, most definitely. We'll see how, but only if you pay the class fee of either 1 like or 1 sub. It's illegal not to. Fine, let's get right into it. The first shortcut is to draw in levels, in 3 levels specifically: big, medium, and small. Process is everything in art. If you have a good process, you'll have fewer corrections to make along the way, fewer revisions, and you'll get to be done faster as a result. Big brain stuff. In this case, it's not so much your hand that suddenly starts to draw faster though. Instead, the speed gain will be as a result of avoiding typical mistakes, typical time-wasting steps that most artists make. Working in levels kind of forces you to have good process. The idea is to start with big shapes only, silhouette-defining shapes. Ignore all the small and medium-sized details initially. When you have a rough draft of your basic shapes, then you can go on and focus on the medium-sized details, and only once that's done, focus on smaller details. This applies to everything: drawing, coloring, shading, all of it. To give you a concrete example, while drawing the human body like I'm doing here, you'd first want to focus on constructing the body with simple volumes like spheres and cylinders, just like I showed in last week's class. From there, moving on to medium-sized details will be like working on adding the big groups of muscles, fleshing out the anatomy, and then you'd want to end with smaller details like skin folds, nipples, very important, nails, veins, and more subtle muscle definition. It's incredible the amount of time you'll save this way. An easy trick to help you focus on what matters to do this, to work in 3 different levels, is to avoid zooming in until you're at the last step where you'll be working on small details. For big and medium-sized details, don't zoom in. Force yourself to see the entire drawing for as long as possible. Remember, most people seeing your work won't zoom in either, so don't spend too much time and effort on small details nobody will notice. Working in 3 levels of details helps you do that. It's the same thing I tell all of my students, and by the way, if you like how I teach, check the video description for a big discount on my art program. It's a complete art education from home, equivalent in its content to a traditional Bachelor of Fine Arts, but with a heavy emphasis on digital arts. It's also arguably much better, but I'm biased. The discount will be valid until the end of the month because I am celebrating reaching 9,000 students. A crazy number I would have never imagined possible when I started working on the program 5 years ago. If you are already a student of mine, thank you. I love you. Now, shortcut number 2 is to copy. What? Wait, no. I mean copy parts of other artists' recipes. Not their style, not their art, just some more abstract elements of it. For example, it could be copying the color palette of one of your favorite artist's artwork and reusing that for your own. It could be copying how a certain artist draws eyes, but not the eye as a whole. Here I'm talking more about the various simplification choices that went into it. Another example, how the eyes of my characters don't have a full outline. Don't draw the same eye, obviously, that's illegal, but you could totally use the same logic to draw different eyes. See what I mean? When I talk about copying, I'm not saying to copy things as is, but instead to copy the recipe the artist used for that particular thing. Having to figure out recipes on your own is doable, but it takes a long time and a lot of experience. My recommendation to draw faster is to start copying how other artists approach certain things you struggle with the most. Over the years, I've done the same thing. A while back, I was struggling to draw noses, and I would waste a lot of time trying different things until it looked kind of okay because I didn't have my own recipe. But then looking at different animes, particularly those with a more realistic style, I started to adapt the noses and how simplified they look to my own process. Once I got used to the recipe and started to tweak it to make it my own, that struggle that I had drawing noses disappeared, and now it takes me only a few seconds. Whereas before, I would spend a ton of time drawing and erasing until I miraculously landed on something that looked okay. Copy other artists, but not their art, their decision making. The third shortcut is to forget your art style. Don't waste your time on this silly thing. Artists who worry about their art style are generally not at a point where they should be worrying about that at all. And experienced artists with a solid art style don't generally think about their art style at all. Your style is just a collection of art recipes that you'll gather over the years. Some you'll naturally develop on your own, and others you'll copy and then adjust, similar to what I was just talking about with shortcut number 2. Your style is a result of all that. It's hard to force it. Style without good fundamentals always look like doo-doo anyway, so save yourself some time, skip worrying about that, and just draw what comes to you naturally. Don't awkwardly try to fit into a style mold and waste time over this. Shape your own mold with time and experience. And finally, shortcut number 4 is to avoid challenges. Wait, that one needs more explaining once again. What I mean is to focus on what you're good at. We tend to draw slowly when tackling subjects that are difficult for us, not well under control. We'll erase a lot, second guess our decisions, scrap the work and start again. Sure, you'll get better as you work through the things you have more trouble with, but doing so really slows down the process. A better approach would be to start a drawing knowing the majority of it you'll have under control and leave a little bit of room for some challenge too. Something like 70-30. 70% of the drawing being something you can draw more easily, something for which you have more experience, and leave a 30% or so of more challenging things to improve your skills in the process as well. Makes sense, right? Drawing something easy takes less time. Drawing something hard takes more time. Even if those two things are equivalent in difficulty, you'll spend much longer on the one you don't have as much experience with. Working on drawings that are too challenging will feel like running into walls after walls. It can be very demoralizing, and often people will just give up halfway, as in not finish the drawing. Why put yourself through this? That's not fun. The opposite isn't much better either. If it's too easy, then you won't learn anything or you won't improve, and that's demoralizing long term. Yikes. A 70-30 balance, in my opinion, is the sweet spot where you won't get stuck too much, yet you'll still learn something along the way as you work through the limited challenge. Do it. And that's gonna wrap it up for this week's class. It's good to go faster at drawing, but keep in mind, nobody cares how long you spend on your art. Most artists spend way more time than they publicly admit anyways, and from all my years of experience, from what I've seen, artists are rarely too slow relative to their experience. In all my years working in a studio, I've never seen a junior artist who's way slower than the others. It's almost always exactly what we expected, so don't stress over it. But still though, applying those shortcuts will allow you to be significantly more productive, so you should consider them if you haven't already. Now, if you've been a good student and you're still watching, you get a freebie. Go ahead and grab my brush pack for free in the video description. It contains my legendary line art brush. It's perfect. Also, make sure you're subscribed to be on time for next week's class. As you might know by now, I'm starting a public Discord server once we hit 1 million subs. And that's all. Check out these other videos that I recommend if you want to level up as an artist faster. I'll see you there.
Shh.